I hung up the phone, opened the door, bunch of people, back to my head. And I remember 4 guys laying on the ground with blood coming out of their eyes. They broke my jaw here, here, and here. Crushed my temple. My orbit felt like cottage cheese, upper cheekbone crushed. I had 10 TBIs, all the skull fractures and facial fractures and everything like that. And no one came to even see me. A month and a half later, my biological mother wants to meet me.
Let's start with where you grew up.
Okay, born in Camden. Was put up for adoption at a Catholic orphanage. That's called Catholic Charities now. Got adopted. I was a baby. Quickly moved down to the shore area, Brigantine, Atlantic City, Margate, Ventnor, Ocean City. Went to 6 different grade schools, 5 different Catholic schools before Ocean City High School.
Who were the people that raised you?
I got adopted by a couple that was married for about 10 years. They were only together for 4 years of my life and then got divorced. One was Polish, German, Slovak father, the adopted father, adopted mother, Irish. Both from Clifton, New Jersey. Uncle was from Patterson, Passaic, and then moved down the shore permanently. But I started in Brigantine, and I went over to Ventnor and then Margate. Yeah, so.
Did you grow up with any other kids in the house?
There was one other child adopted. My adopted sister, Toby, was the other person. She was 2 years younger than me, but also adopted from Catholic Charity as well, what it's called now, the Catholic Orphanage in Camden. I think she was born in Camden too. But yeah.
What are some of your early memories about childhood? Do you have any fond memories of it or no?
Zero fond memories. I had trauma. I had a couple stepdads that used to beat me pretty badly. Babysitters, daughters that molested me when I was 6 or 7 years old. Yeah, it was a funny story because well, funny now, but the year I got molested by these 2 teenage girls or whatever were at my babysitters in Brigantine. And I called the babysitter a big fat pig. I thought I was getting back at her. I was 6 years old. And my stepdad came back. I was at football practice in Brigantine on 26th Street. And he grabbed my face mask and dragged me by my head all the way back down to the house. When we got close to the house, he had, he was yelling at me the whole time. He called the babysitter, "You're a big fat pig." And I was like, and I was trying to tell someone these people were doing what they're doing to me, but no one believed me. So dragged me down for a couple blocks. My step brother, Mark, his oldest, or his only son, sorry, not oldest child. He had a sister too. I had some stepsister and brother, and he tackled him to get him off me. I'll never forget it. For as long as I can live, I decompartmentalized the molestation up until about 5 years ago. And then it came back out vividly in my memory. And then that started the ball rolling with stepdads and uncles. And then my adopted mom divorced him soon after. Moved to Margate, jumped to Ventnor after that. My adopted father took custody of me and my adopted sister when I was 12.
What was the reason for the jumping around? Was your mom moving?
They were just not, like, I guess she got divorced twice in Brigantine. So she was bouncing around because they got rid of the house in Brigantine. So she left the guy that beat me. I mean, that was only one beating. There was multiple beatings from that guy. So it was until she divorced him, then the beating stopped. That's the only time. She didn't divorce him because because her husband was beating me. She divorced him because he was cheating on her. I never felt real safe or there. My adopted father told me when I was 4 years old that I wasn't wanted and I was adopted. And then he left, and then another guy came in, and the story I just said, told that story. And then Margate for about a year, and then Blessed Sacrament. And then my adoptive father started to date my 3rd grade teacher at Blessed Sacrament School, the only non-nun at the Catholic school in Margate, New Jersey. Real special that. Yeah. And we go into like Little League being my escape, baseball in Margate. I fell in love with baseball, and that was my escape. We moved to Ventnor. I used to bike my bike over to Margate just to go to practice because no one really cared about what I was doing in life. So I pretty much had free reign. My adopted mom was a nurse, at Atlantic City Medical Center. And my adoptive father was into his life and a guidance counselor, licensed and family marriage therapist, and just never had time for me. So.
What was your relationship like with your adopted mom?
I didn't have one. I don't have any fond memories of her. I mean, I guess she did what she had to do, but we were always out of food with her. And until my adopted dad took custody of me and my sister Toby, we were constantly out of food. So I was stealing money out of her purse to buy food for me and my sister. She said I was stealing, I got disciplined for stealing money out of her purse. I used to steal the change out of her purse so I could go to the store and get a Reese's peanut butter cup bar or a Milky Way, just so I could eat. And just so my stepsister, I'm going to call her, but adopted sister, Toby. It was sad. I got blamed for a lot of things that I didn't do and blamed for things I had to do. It is what it is now. It's no big deal. It made me a better father today. So I love my children more than life itself. So yeah.
Growing up in that type of household environment, did you have dreams of what you wanted to be later on in life?
Baseball was my biggest dream, I think. I started surfing too, which sidetracked to baseball, but baseball was my biggest dream. Like, my heroes were Bobby Clark from the Flyers and Bruce Lee. And then I had a poster on my wall of Charlie's Angels. But as far as the dream was concerned, baseball, playing for the Phillies.
Did you finish grade school, like up through high school?
I finished grade school. I went to grade school in Brigantine. I went to grade school in Margate. I went to grade school in Ventnor Middle School, Margate, Bush, Sacrament, Brigantine Central Avenue School. Sorry. Then we went to Ocean City, and I went to Ocean City. I went to St. Augustine's in Ocean City. Got kicked out in 7th grade. Went back in 8th grade. St. Augustine's, graduated from there in Ocean City. Then Ocean City High School was the first school I went to in my life up until that point, consecutively for all 4 years. So that's where I graduated from. And then I quickly joined the Army to get out of the situation that I was in. Did not want to be in Jersey anymore, and left as soon as I legally could.
What kind of kid were you in high school? Is there any story from high school that kind of illustrates who you were?
Stories, well, not in high school per se, like kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade are real memorable during the beating times because I couldn't speak. I was in speech therapy from kindergarten to 2nd grade. So I was bullied a lot, in fights a lot. I couldn't pronounce any word with CH, TH, or SH in it, which pretty much covers the English language for the most part, at least 60% of it. But always made fun of, always in fights. And then from 2nd grade until 12th grade high school, I was just a surfer dude, loved everybody, got along with every clique in school. Had a lot of acne a couple of years in high school, maybe the only thing. We were a part of a couple of race things. I was in the tail end of the race thing growing up. All my friends were black, white, yellow, purple, brown. So I've gotten ridiculed in high school from certain friends' parents not to hang out with black people. And all I wanted to do was play basketball. So I hung out with black people all the time, went over to their houses all the time. Back then it was considered black, white, or whatever. I didn't consider it, but cool people, hanging out with cool people and doing what I like to do. But I loved basketball as well, besides baseball, but I didn't have a problem. I was actually told by one friend's parents I couldn't come over to the house anymore because the guy saw me passing by playing basketball and I was the only white kid playing basketball. And that was in high school as well too. So
walk me through your experience joining the military.
Yeah, I just wanted to escape. I didn't have a legal right to escape. I didn't know who my real parents were. I was told I was adopted when I was 4, so I escaped when I could legally, and I joined the Army. I tried to join when I was 17. And of course, they snagged that with my birth certificate. I mean, I wasn't that smart, I guess. Yeah. But yeah. I got in the delayed entry program, joined the Marines, then backed out of the Marines and went in the Army. Just as soon as possible. I went in the Army October after I graduated high school from Ocean City High School in 1987. So in October of 87 is when I entered basic training. And was very happy till I woke up that first morning and met the drill sergeant. So yeah, it was a rude awakening that first morning, but realized, what did I do? But then now,
you said rude awakening. What do you remember about?
4 o'clock in the morning, the guy, the drill sergeant with the big rim that goes around the hat for a drill sergeant, just banging me in my forehead, telling me, get the F up, get the fuck up. You're in the Army now, son, basically just screaming at me at 4:30 in the morning. And I remember how cold I was that morning and how everyone was waking up in a rude awakening. And And then going through the motions of qualifying for basic training and then entering basic training, which is even more of a rude awakening.
Do a lot of people pass basic training?
Not everyone passes. You have to do a certain amount of chin-ups, push-ups, and sit-ups in order to qualify the week prior. Because they issue a uniform. They do all the issuing of everything. They get all the rules, the guidelines. It's not basic training, but it's close. As long as you pass everything, then you enter basic training, which is a different morning. Another morning that is a rude awakening, very much so. But a purpose, because they told us they were breaking us down and then building us back up, straight up. So
at what point did you start getting in the swing of things?
Probably third or fourth week, I met a guy from Hawaii that was in my room, and we became really good friends because I was infatuated with surfing at the time. And Hawaii was my dream. In high school, I had pictures all over my walls. Ceilings, walls, all Hawaii, all the North Shore, and that's all I knew of it. And then anyway, we became friends, and we became, not thick as thieves, but we became pretty tight. And he always won the push-up contest. We were always competing with whatever, but he was always way more athletic than me and stronger than me. But yeah, as soon as we started doing weapons, I started getting more interested in it and whatnot. Once I realized how I can get out of KP, which is kitchen police, you have to go wash huge pots and pans it's called KP. I'm sure everyone's heard of KP if you're in the military. KP is what you want to avoid when you're a private and in basic training. So I figured out a way the drill sergeant would go through in the middle of the night. This is a funny story. And they put a white towel on the end of the bunk whose person's turn was the KP. And I would wake up, take my towel off and put it on somebody else's thing. So sorry, you guys. So yeah, I figured it out. I never did KP the entire time. So maybe not right. Maybe I shouldn't admit that, but shouldn't get me in any trouble. But I just started. Yeah. Once I figured that out, then I always shut my mouth, kept my eyes forward. I never started trouble. I always kept with my ability to talk, then I kept my mouth shut.
So where did you get
stationed?
Yeah, where did you get stationed?
I got sent. I trained as a combat engineer, which is ordnance, minefields, constant wire. It was all the grunt above infantry grunt stuff. We did minefields. We blew up. Yeah. So I got stationed. I got sent to Germany. I signed up initially for Germany. So I didn't want to stay in the United States. I wanted to get away from the situation I had at home. I didn't want to get as furthest away as possible. So Germany was West Germany, it was called when I went there.
What year was this?
1987. I finished training, I think, early January of 88. I got shipped out like the middle of, like right this time, like around the 17th, 15th of the January, I got shipped out to Frankfurt and then Würzburg. And I got stationed in a small village called Kitzingen. At the time, it was West Germany at the time.
Was there anything going on in?
Cold War was going on big time. I could never go within 2.5 miles or 2 miles of the East German line and everything like that. I always had to stay about 5 miles off of it. If I were going to different towns and stuff like that on the weekends when we had off of work and everything. Because we worked 5 days a week before Kuwait. And then for 3 years, nothing. It was just work for the Army. I was a driver for a first sergeant at the company for a while, the CEO of the company. Then I became a mail guy, and then I became a tanker. And I became a sergeant. Put me in the tank one day as a gunner. Put me in a spot. I shot it. I hit the target, and he started training me in the gunner position, which was like a sergeant position. At the time, I was a PFC, a private first class, but it was an E5 slot. He caught it, and I shot the thing about 1.5 miles away, and I hit it. And then I got in the machine gun. I was even more accurate with the spray of machine gun. Yeah, I was really good at that, and loved the position. Tried to become a chopper pilot because my eyes were good with scopes. I was always interested in flying a chopper, but it never panned out for me. I passed all the correspondence courses for it, but my eyes failed me for a warrant officer school. So they kept me in the gunner in the tank, but which was pretty cool. I mean, I'd done other things too, but that was my coolest job in the Army. I drove 5-ton dump trucks, deuce and a halves, Willie Jeeps. Humvees were shipped out when I was in the military to Europe. I got one of the first ones ever in the 80 or 89 when they came out, because I got trained on a Willie Jeep, which you have to grind and find your gears in a Willie Jeep. If you ever watched MASH before and you see those guys always doing this, yeah, that was me. And then the Humvees came in, we were going through 6-foot puddles. It was awesome, amazing. I had an amazing time operating all the vehicles that I did. I had amazing relationships in the military as well. I had odd relationships. If you want to hear about, I really one that'll blow your mind.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about some of the people that you met.
I met a couple of type people. I was, raised Catholic, but this guy, William Chappell I'll never forget him. He's an Okie from Muskogee. It's that song, country song. He's from Muskogee, Oklahoma. And he was a Satan worshiper. And he took to me, we drank together, this and that. I never got involved in any of the Satan stuff or anything like that. But I just found him really interesting. Well, he scared this company commander so bad they were trying to get him out of the Army. So they made me hang out with him. They gave him his own barracks that housed 125 soldiers in Germany. And he immediately changed a whole huge bay that we had that would fit 125 people. And he got a bunch of salt from the chow hall and he made a pentagram in the middle of the friggin' room. And he's telling me, Todd, get in here, check this out. Like, there's story upon story. He was a little strange. He used to go to Amsterdam for midnight mass on Saturday nights for Satan worshipers. He had a satanic Bible. But the company commander was like, just keep him calm until we get the paperwork done and get him out of here. And then he ended up getting caught selling weed and whatever. He got caught with weed in Holland and Germany and whatever like that. So he eventually went to jail for Fort Leavenworth. Along with another friend, yeah. And then years later, he calls me, 10 years later. But otherwise, I had a really good friend. Like, being adopted, I never knew what I was. And so a lot of people tell me I may be Native American, this and that throughout my life. And I bonded with, I always drifted towards people of indigenous people. My other best friend was Floyd Greeley. He was 100% Sioux, Native American. He was born and raised in Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota, which is probably one of the most famous reservations in the country. But I always hung out. Yeah, I've saved people's lives in the barracks. I've saved people's lives outside the barracks. I've had an interesting run. Well, my boy Floyd, he unfortunately passed away. Yeah, he had a hard time with alcoholism in the beginning, and once he got out. But that Satan worshiper was he was different, but he was cool. And then get back to the Satan worshiper. 10 years went by. I already had a baby. He called me out of the blue. Now he's a born again Christian, telling me that he has given his life to God. After all that happened, I trip out, and he still had my phone number all those years. I don't think he's with us anymore, but I haven't talked to him in a while. But for some reason, that guy, I don't know. I calmed him down for the company commander. So I did what I was asked to do. But yeah.
While you were in Germany, did you see any combat?
My own personal combat. We got called up to go to Kuwait. We went out one night to get drunk, a bunch of us, my whole tank crew, a bunch of us, including that guy, the Satan guy, and then Larry, my other good friend, and Floyd Greeley. And I left and went to a payphone, maybe 1,000, 1,500 yards away from the bar we were drinking. We were all getting drunk for whatever reason. Last song that played in that bar was American Pie by Don McClellan, something like that. And the last thing I remember, so I walked up to this payphone. I called these people, a best friend of mine in South Jersey, who was from Westchester, Pennsylvania, Goshen to be exact. I called his father because I felt more closer to him as a son and him being a father than me over the 4 years I was in high school. So I called him Big Al Taylor. He always listened to me. I didn't know other father that ever listened to me. And that really supported me in somewhat of a way, right? He had 6 kids. He had much time for me, but anywho, I called him on the telephone. And in Europe, they had those bifold doors. So when I was talking to the family, saying goodbye, we're going to war, blah, 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 drunk. But, it was very dramatic, probably. I hung up the phone, opened the door, bunch of people, back to my head. Bat. Don't remember the first initial hit. I got hit so hard. But the next thing, there's 7 guys, all with some kind of object, what little I remember. But I remember getting the bat. I remember dealing with 4 of them. And I remember 4 guys laying on the ground with blood coming out of their eyes. And I remember leaving at that moment or running or whatever. And then the next day I woke up in my bunk in my barracks in West Germany in Kitzingen. My roommate came over to me. Sergeant's pounding on the door. They're looking for me. I'm in my blood all over my tank top. It was summertime, like August, I'm gonna say. And my roommate, African-American individual, one of my dear friends, was like, what the hell? What the fuck happened to you? And my jaw was like, my whole thing was so swollen right here, it was hanging down to here. So initially what happened, I broke my jaw. They broke my jaw here, here, and here, crushed my temple. My orbit felt like cottage cheese, upper cheekbone crushed, everything back here crushed. Like I got 3 small hills in the back of my neck that were calcium deposited that grew over the skull fractures, I guess. I had just changed platoon sergeants a week ago before this happened. And I had an African-American platoon sergeant at this point. Before that was the guy that threw me in the tank that loved how I shot and everything like that. He got transferred. Black guy came in and he's pounding on our door. He's trying to bust me for being drunk on duty. And shoved a breathalyzer into my mouth, seeing my mouth. My African-American roommate was like, Sarge, what the fuck are you doing? And he shoved that thing in my mouth. Most pain I've ever experienced in my entire life, because before that I was passed out. I have no idea how I got back to the barracks. I have no idea how the MPs let me through without taking me to the hospital. The charge of quarters that the military has for overnight, they always have somebody awake just to report anything or whatever. He let me into my room. I have no recollection of that. Zero. Until the next morning when that guy shoved that breathalyzer into my mouth trying to get, it felt like I had no teeth, felt like pure pain. Then he begged the sergeant, let me go to the aid station. Aid station sent me immediately to the ambulance over to Würzburg Army Hospital. That was half German, half active duty American Army. I was in there for quite a while. I remember the first morning, the colonel who was in charge of me, who wired my jaw and everything else. But I woke up that first morning, the pain was incredible. And the colonel was really cool. He's trying to be cool to me. He's like, yeah, you used to have a hard head. I was like, I couldn't talk, couldn't speak, but I'm like, no, it's too soon. I told the colonel, he's like, that's okay, son. We'll get you through this. Kind of that. I remember him being very kind. I remember my platoon sergeant and a squad leader or so, whatever, trying to get me in trouble for smoking marijuana. I called my adoptive father, the one and only time that guy fucking helped me out. Called a congressman because they were trying to bust me for marijuana. And since they try to connect the attack to me doing something with drugs or something, which never existed. And the colonel protected me. And then, and the one sergeant got really upset when he came to my room because he couldn't do anything to me. You got to get a general's signature to override certain things. And then next thing you know, a congressman from New Jersey says, don't bother that soldier, specialist Oliver, because my adopted dad called him and then he called somebody or whatever and said, stop fucking with that guy because he just got, his head's bashed in. You fucking kidding me? So at least I think that was God, more or less. But yeah, just stepping into there. But then about a month and a half go by, then I get out of the military, I go to Fort Dix, and it's funny too, the adopted people, just to go back for a second, the adopted people had a bunch of money. They were well-to-do. One was more well-to-do than the other one, but never came over and saw me. My career was over at that point. I had 10 TBIs, all the skull fractures and facial fractures and everything like that, and no one came to even see me. So that let me down a lot in a big way because they had the financial means, and they had the thing, but they just didn't show up when their kid almost died. Supposedly I was their kid. So that kind of hurt, and that set the stage and led me to a life of, doing drugs, bad coping choices, bunch of things that I don't regret, but I had a hard time in the beginning.
Once you got back to Fort Dix?
Yeah, we got to Fort Dix, out processed. They were going to send me back to my unit in Kuwait. They said by 4:30 in the morning, you'll know if you get your last paycheck. If you don't get that, you're going to meet up with your unit in Kuwait. I was like, you serious? I just got my head bashed in. What are you talking about? But I got my paycheck. And my adopted dad picked me up. Thank God for that. Seriously, it's a punchline. Yeah. And I got off base. I got the fuck off base and got back to Jersey. A month and a half later, my biological mother wants to meet me right after all of that. Yeah. Up here in Camden. at a Catholic orphanage or at Catholic charities. I had to go through this vetting process to make sure I wasn't mad to meet this person. This all happened, 2 months maybe after I got out, a month and a half. My adoptive father sat me down and said, "Your real mother's looking for you." Literally not happy with him. I can see it all in my head right now. Like it was yesterday, it was my one dream answered to meet my real biological parents. My whole life I wanted to do that, and this is happening. So I got vetted by a couple nuns. They saw that I was calm, and then we met. Hell yeah, it's freaking crazy, bro. My life's yeah, that's why I'm so mellow. That's why I'm so laughing. That's why I love comedy. But yeah, so met her. Never knew there was a camera in the room. I met with the nun, and then I went to the other door. I'll never forget it. And she's standing there looking exactly like me. And all I could say was, "How you doing? How you doing? How you doing?" Like, "Ah, sorry, I can don't say how you doing." And then about a minute into it, 45 seconds, it felt like forever. I looked to the right, it's a camera. Like I had to record the whole moment. And anybody who's ever seen this video, crying their eyes out, kind of a thing. Including myself, when I hear about it. When I talk about it, I don't cry too much anymore because it turned out to be she wasn't. Everything happens for a reason. She doesn't. Yeah. I knew her for a month after that, and that was it.
She what? Flake?
She's just a flake. She was a girlfriend to the mob. She was like one of those. How do you say that? It's the girlfriend of the mob. It's except a Goomba or not Goomba, something. Anyway, she had ties to certain things that I knew little about or whatnot. She just wasn't a really good person and anything like that. Apparently, I asked her the questions, "Why'd you give me up?" and all that stuff. And she said her mother said I was a whore child, and I was not going to be born in that house or born into this family. You're going to, I wasn't welcome, is what my real grandmother told her daughter when she gave birth to me. I guess when I was born, she was saying my grandfather was in the room with her, and she was finalizing the paperwork to give me up for adoption. And he said he tried to make a way work with her mother, but it didn't work. And they still put me up, or she still put me up for adoption. So those are the stories that she told me. And then she told me she was raped, and I was a product of the rape. And then I meet cousins a year later or whatever, or no, maybe a month. I heard about a couple of cousins that I grew up around that were related to me. I graduated high school with one of them. I never knew. A sister that I dated one of my friends growing up, because they're all from like Camden, Cherry Hill, Medford area. And then like my one cousin I talked to today went to Shawnee High School. I'm not exactly sure where that's at, but it's outside Medford or something like that. Yeah. So he went to Ocean City High School for a little bit, then he went back to Shawnee at the end or whatever. But we were in high school together. I was at parties with a certain cousin, Erica. I didn't know she's my cousin. We didn't find out 2 weeks later she was my cousin. They're like that. And they're like, "Oh shit, we're cousins." But yeah. So it was a moment for a little bit. I lived with my biological donor. I call her. She, to me, a mother or father's an earned term.
You were in your 20s when
I was 22 when all this happened. Yeah. I was 22 when it happened to me. Everything happened to me. And then 23 and a half, 24 when I had my first baby. So yeah, a year after this. I moved to Hawaii, and in 1991, about 8 months after all this, meeting my biological mother. After getting out of the military, went to California a couple of times. Then I moved to Kona, Hawaii, and in 1991, and had a baby in 1992. And then going out with that woman, I had a lot of, my daughter was molested when she was 14 months old by my ex's father, her grandfather. In that short period of time, up until 1993, I had to get out of Kona to save my daughter from, not necessarily save, but I got a girl pregnant from a one night stand, and 3 months later, she told me she was pregnant with my kid, and then had the baby, my daughter Savannah. Best thing that ever happened to me.
One daughter
and one son, but first was the daughter. She was the first blood relative I ever had in my life up to that point. And I think I was 24 when she was born, 23, 24, like the end of 23. She was born in July, so in the middle. So I was 24 when she was born. And 14 months after she was born, we had broken up a couple of times, her mother and I. And I actually walked in on my ex and her father having sex one time. Um, blocked that out for a lot of years. Probably the same amount of time I blocked out being molested when I was 6 by my babysitter's kids. So yeah, and I remember probably the babysitter too. I remember her going out of the room. Yeah. Anywho, then we felt that Savannah was molested by someone. Found out it was my girlfriend's father. I took her to a place in the Big Island of Hawaii to get her a rape kit done on my 14-month-old daughter, and it was found that she was fondled with, but not entered, but she was fondled with. Immediately caused a huge thing. I tried killing the guy. I tried getting him prosecuted. I had 7 cops pull me off the guy because I was gonna kill the guy for doing that to my kid. She was only 14 months old. And 7 cops pulled me off, told me, yeah, it was crazy. All of this, 22 to 24 was a gnarly 2 years for me, gnarly. Convinced the adoptive family I needed help, got back to New Jersey, got custody of them. They loaned me $3,500 to get custody of her. That's all I needed. Got custody of her, spent about a year and a half here over in New Jersey again, went back to Hawaii. And then, yeah, lived life, single parent. Her mother wasn't involved in her life for 10 years almost, maybe 9 years, I want to say. Her mom just left for a long period of time. So I was here for about almost 2 years, I want to say, 94 to 96. And then went back to Kona in 96, maybe 97. I've been staying there for a long time, went back into life and I was a carpenter for a while in Hawaii. Yeah.
Did you move out there because of the friend you had made in the military?
Military, that was the reason why. Actually, to go back to it'll be one happy time of moving to Hawaii and everything like that, the dream, and him calling me up and say, why don't you move to Kona? I didn't know where Kona was. I heard of the North Shore. I'm a white boy from New Jersey. I didn't really know much about Hawaii except what I had on my wall in high school and everything like that. It was all pictures of Pipeline and Sunset Beach and all these cool beaches I didn't really know about, kind of a thing. And I said, where's Kona? So I flew to Honolulu from LA. At that time, I was in San Diego. With some friends surfing in San Diego. And that's when he called me up, come to Kona. So I did. I slept in LAX airport overnight one night with my surfboard and my friggin' bag of clothes. And I went to Kona the next day, 1991, and lived on Lunapule Street in Big Island in Kona on the west side of Hawaii, and been there ever since. Yeah, been a little over 30 years now. So one of the best places. Well, my home. I consider myself Hawaiian more than anything else, but yeah. Stuck here because my adopted dad that I talk about, who helped me out getting off Fort Dix, he was one of the nicer ones growing up. So he's lonely, and I'm back here because I felt bad for him. So my youngest is a 23-year-old boy, and my daughter, who I talked about earlier, she's 33. So I came back to New Jersey.
The first child was from like a one-night stand, you said.
Exactly.
Then you had a girlfriend after that.
I did. 10 years later, I had another baby. I had a different girlfriend. I was never married in my life. So that's the last serious relationship I had. And my son, when he was born, we broke up. So it's been 23 years since I had a serious relationship.
But together with her?
Together 3.5 years. I never really had a serious relationship ever last over 3.5 years. Yeah, because I was doing drugs, I was doing this, I was doing that. Never a criminal. I've never been arrested. I've been in handcuffs once for a no insurance ticket, and that was it for 3 hours. I've never been in jail. Thank God, knock on wood. Knock on wood.
What kind of drugs were you into?
My favorite was Coke. I did Coke. It got rid of all my feelings. Alcohol would always lead me there, of course, but Coke was my favorite. Weed is the one thing I still do to this day. I will do a little bit. I smoke a little weed. It does help. But I'm finding now, I just turned 57 2 weeks ago, and last year I walked away from the adopted family and everybody else who was just bad for me. And I thought I was doing the wrong thing, and then ended up getting peace as a result of walking away from the right people finally. And they were the adopted family that I was with, even the adopted dad that I came over to help out in assisted living and being there for when he was lonely, and they just fucked me again. Another story at the end, and I don't know, one day I just thought that I'm just gonna walk away. I'm gonna walk away from all the idiots. I'm really gonna do it this time. And I did it. 2 months later, I get peace. My weed habit goes down to once a day in the morning. That's it, over coffee. I used to smoke a lot of weed because my brain would always be tight with all these problems I had, and how I dealt with them before wasn't working. The coke wasn't working anymore. The alcohol wasn't working anymore. Nothing. Cigarettes weren't working. I quit smoking 6 months ago, all because I got peace 8 months ago. I think I think it attributes the peace allowed me, my mind, to be settled to quit smoking cigarettes, which by far the hardest thing I've ever quit. So yeah, now it's been almost 6 months. I'm 2 weeks shy of, or 3 weeks shy of 6 months of no cigarettes. Honestly, for the first time in my life. So nothing, addicted to nothing. Going on a diet, starting to do fasting, walking, doing things Todd's never done before. Yeah. Used to be in shape, but yeah, spirit was broken for a long time. But now I got it back. I guess walking away was significant in my healing and everything like that. I just, yeah, doing meditation now. I'm all kind of praying to God, not going to church.
Did you take steps towards like healing by talking to people, or?
It's funny. I drive for Uber, and in between Kona, Hawaii, and here driving for Uber, I meet a million different personalities, right? So certain people just heal me getting into my car. I don't know what it is. I talk to God a lot. Healing wise, like my adopted family, there's a bunch of therapists in that family, and I'm the only non-therapist. So therapy wasn't a thing for me. I always bounced out, I was in rehab a couple of times for the coke thing and stuff like that. I did it 3 times. I had a lot of healing my last rehab. I'll say that. And that was back in 1999. But then I met another girl, and then she did drugs and turned me to meth. And then I got into meth for a little bit, but that was a short-lived thing anyway, because I didn't like it. But that was my son's mother. My daughter's mother was cocaine, and my son's mother was meth. But yeah, healing, to get back to healing. I think life just, yeah, I don't know, maybe just time.
Yeah.
Time was a big player in my healing, I guess. Yeah, you could say.
How does it feel to live again in the Jersey Shore area where there were so many bad memories growing up? Does it remind you of a lot of things?
It did bring up a lot of memories, because a really funny story with my adopted mom, with that guy that used to beat me and drag me by my face mask 3 blocks down the road. She runs into him again 2 years ago. I think at Boscov's in Northfield. After 40 years or 30 years, gets back together with him. He buys her a house or downstairs with his duplex. She invites me over. Oh, David really wants to see you. And I immediately tense up. Everyone's like, Dad, what's the matter? Because my kids know the stories very well. My son especially. He's my dude. My son's my dude. I tried making amends with this guy. And I went over to the house. I was nervous the whole time. I stayed over. She asked me to stay over. I said, sure, I'll try. I couldn't sleep a wink that friggin' night. I got up at 6 and I was gone. I couldn't believe that this bitch is going to do this to me again 35 years later. So I immediately stopped talking to her, and I haven't talked to her since, about 2.5 years ago. Some people call me a bad son or whatever like that. I'm totally not a bad son. I don't think I am. First I did. I had a little guilt at first, I even had a guilt for those 4 guys that were laying on the ground in the military. They're trying to kill me. I was a payphone. No, I wasn't, So I felt guilt for everybody that has put harm on me, which is really odd, which maybe is part of the healing too. But unbelievable. Unbelievable. She did it again. So I stopped talking to her, went back to Hawaii. And then it leads into my adopted father, her ex-husband since 1973. I was adopted in 69. They got divorced in 73. The perfect Catholic family. He was actually the recipient of being molested by a Catholic priest, but he liked it. No, it sounds like a terrible thing for me to say, but even my daughter, he's gay, and he's not gay. He's bisexual, I guess. And I guess he married an Irish chick because he needed to look good in front of the Catholic Church. I overheard all these stories about I had to make it look right. Yeah, when I walked away from my adopted mother, I was just like, really? She did it again? And then he died last year. And my daughter called me from Hawaii. I was here and said, you'll be happy, Dad. That guy that used to beat you and drag you by your head, yeah, he died. Oh, the biggest weight came off my shoulders. I scream, hallelujah. I know that's wrong for me to say something like that, but this guy, because when I had re-met him, I went to go shake his hand because I actually seen him the one time before I stayed over at his house. But his house was separate as a duplex, so I didn't see him throughout the night. It was just the vibe. But I shook his hand. I looked him right in his face, and all me, my whole adult life after that, I wanted to take his head off. I had a good reason. But when I saw him at 92 years old with freaking cancer and as frail as he looked when I shook his hand, I didn't have the heart to do it. At that moment, it went from twisting his head off to shaking his hand. And that's all I did. That was it. And then started staying over that night, didn't work out, left, but split. And yeah. So
What was the experience like for you having your children?
huge. Oh, something I always wanted. I didn't have anybody blood related my whole life. I didn't know who I was, what I was, where my blood originates from. Having my daughter was everything. It was like winning a lottery. It was like winning $500 billion, infinite amount of money, whatever. It was more worth it to me than having her. Sorry if I cry about this one because that was the best day of my life when she was born. Despite the one night stand, now she's a nurse and has 2 babies. That guy, so that was the best day of my life. And my son, another best day of my life. I remember when we found out he was a boy, we were at the parking lot in Kona, and we were laughing about how I thought on the sonogram, I said, are those 2 balls or whatever like that? Sorry, are those eyes right there? He goes, no, those are your son's balls. And that's how the doctor told me. So I was like, we got to the parking lot screaming, that kind. So to have a boy and a girl, I was pretty happy about that because it was everything to me. Having my blood and my daughter years later getting me the ancestry DNA thing. The 89 for Christmas when I was 49 years old. About 8 years ago, maybe I was 48. I finally found out not who I was, but where I came from. I found out I was mostly Spanish and Portuguese, Native American, even 4% African American. I mean, but mostly like 35% Spanish, Portuguese. So I always say, God, he's got a sense of humor. I'm a most fair-skinned Latino. Never grew up in a white man's household, a Polish and a Slovak and an Irish, and never knew my culture, but yeah. Because I've been homeless 3 times in my life. Drugs were a big reason of it, running out of money, not getting, being injured. I had 3 spine surgeries, 2009, 2011, 2013, as a result of what happened to me that night by getting in the head. Calcium deposits were going on my spine, narrowing the ways, whatever. So I have from 7 to 3 in my cervical spine fused together, plates, screws, and everything like that. Just caught up with me or whatever you could say. So there was drugs involved back then too, but it was more spine surgeries that kept me broke. I couldn't really afford. I always had my son. My daughter was older. She was like 16. She ran away and stayed with her boyfriend's parents for a while I was homeless. I didn't argue too hard. Her mother didn't give a shit anyway. And my son stayed with me. So the first time I was ever homeless was the scariest fucking thing I ever did in my life. Let me tell you, in Hawaii, it's cool, right? Everyone's like, oh yeah, it's warm, whatever. You got mangoes, this. It's not that cool when you're homeless in Hawaii or anywhere else. So very, very scared. I've never been so scared. I'm scared of nobody. No man. Women, a little bit. They give birth, but no man. I'm not scared of anything when it comes to that. But homelessness scared me. The cops I was in a condo, back in rent, had a blue van. I packed up the van. I had my 6-year-old with me, begged my ex to let me have him. We're getting a hotel room, lied to her. Get both of us in the van. I was in the apartment before the people came knocking to tell me to leave his last day, whatever. It's like eviction with cops. And me and my son got in the van. We went up to a beach called Kiholo Bay on the west side of the Big Island of Hawaii. And I really didn't know where I was going to go, to be honest with you, in the beginning. And then I'm like, Kiholo Bay is far enough outside the town where everyone knows me that no one will see me. And I got the van down there, set up 2 tents to make it look like we were camping and we weren't homeless. And that first day is the day I met God. That's why the story is so important to me. And I told you yesterday, even one of my stepfathers said, you should tell your story someday. You should write this down. And I was just like, all right. I told him the story about meeting God. It's not a long story. When we got to the beach and I set up camp and I had my son, 6 years old at the time, 6 or 7. And I had one tent with all video games, and I had an inverter, so I was able to do that. But when we got there, we only had 2 cans of Spam. And my son thought it was funny by taking the little corner off the can of Spam. It was the only food I had. I had $26 on me, quarter tank of gas when I got down to the beach. 2 cans of Spam that he pulled and broke the thing off. I couldn't even open the Spam for us to eat the next day. We had already eaten that day. And I didn't know how I was going to feed my kid the next day. So that night, he finally fell asleep after playing video games there like that. And I went out on this rock and I cried my fucking eyes out, bro. Cried my eyes out and weeping. Man, if you hook us up with some food tomorrow, at least Brandon, my son, if you could just feed him, I'd worship you forever. And I just sat on this rock on the beach by myself at 10:30 at night, just crying like a big baby. He listened to me that night because it was 10:30 at night. I'll never forget it. The next day, about 6 a.m., I hear these people screaming. And I have no idea what the fuck's going on. There's a camp next to me, like 100 yards away. And I see about 14, 15 Micronesians, they're called, from Micronesia on the South Pacific, were screaming at this young couple that was, I guess, the campsite next to me. And there's a little Iranian dude, a little Hawaiian chick, and they're coming out and they're asking these Micronesians, because they're playing music. I hear music playing real loud. I'm like, what? And this people keep playing the same song over and over again. So me and my son wake up from it and then see them yelling at the little couple that's next to us. And they're all carrying spears for the ocean. They're doing spearfishing, whatever. And we're looking, me and my kid, is like 14, 13 of them, 15 of them with spears screaming at the couple. And I was like, oh, that shit ain't right. So I told my son, you stay here, I had a pellet gun and it looked like a rifle. It was like 44 inches. I got it at Walmart in case I had to shoot anything at the campsite, like we have mongooses, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, it was a BB gun. It was a pellet gun. And I told my son to get it. I cocked it. I put a round, a small little tiny round. And I walked up. I told my son, you stay right here. Anything happens to me, you somehow get help or whatever. I don't know what I was saying to him. I didn't want him to come with me because there was like 14 people over there going against this little couple. So he stayed there. You could see his head pierced out just watching his father go out there with the gun. And I walked about 100 yards, maybe less, maybe 80 yards. I walk over there with my weapon. I look at all those cocksuckers. I cocked it. I'm like, we have a fucking problem. And all of a sudden, they dropped the spears and they put their hands up as, oh, we don't have a problem. We don't have a problem. Are you sure we don't have a fucking problem? And they dropped the spear. They were pausing. They were backing up, looking at me like this, walking away and everything. They finally went back to their camp and everything like that. The couple looking at me. My son comes running up after that. Dad, you okay? Whatever like that. And the couple was like, thank you so much. Or like, gave me hugs and everything like that. The mom, I think the girl was a little tearful or something like that. And this is all at 6:15 a.m. in the morning. And the guy looked at me, the couple looked at me, my son's hanging on me, thank God, whatever. The guy looks at me, he goes, are you and your son hungry? He goes, you like quail? You like Pop-Tarts? Did your son like Pop-Tarts from the barbecue grill? And then he fed us, bro. All I asked was to feed Brandon the next day. And he fed both of us quail and Pop-Tarts on a friggin' camping bucket barbecue on the beach at Kiholo Bay on the island of Hawaii. A couple hours later, he tells me, the guy that I helped save him and his chick. I didn't even know I was saving until after the fact. I can't stand seeing people being attacked in that fashion, and no one else saw it except my son, me, the 2 people, and the people that backed up. And of course, God. So ever since that day, I've never had a problem with God. And that's what I say about meeting God. Never wept like that in my life. I may have wept when I was a little kid. Yeah, I got beat a lot from this David and Jory, a bunch of people. I guess I wept back then. I remember weeping when I was 4 years old when he told me I wasn't wanted. I remember that. But yeah, that was just one night. And ever since then, I've just always loved God and thank God for everything. Not religious. I don't go to church. I'm just very grateful for all that I have and all that I've been through and all that I've survived. I know it wasn't only me out there helping me. So
How did you get out of being homeless?
Pulled my boots up on a bootstrap, soldiered up, realized that Coke wasn't for me, or this wasn't for me, or got a job, looked for a job. Had some really good friends along the way that helped me out, throw me $100 here, throw it there, get back into building houses again. I tried. I just kept trying. Whenever I got knocked down, basically, I just got right back up. I just got back up. It may have taken a month. It may have taken 2 weeks. It may have taken 2 months. Sometimes, kind of thing. But I got there. I just never gave up. Never thought about suicide, to be honest with you. I thought about it. I thought about the idea of it. But I'm too much of a pussy to myself to hurt myself. I can't hurt. Yeah, I think my daughter got 1 spanking in her whole entire life. My son, maybe 1. I can't do physical harm to literally any human being. I don't have it in me. I don't know why. That night I got attacked. Of course, I did what I had to do to get out of there, but it is what it is. I wasn't asking for it, but yeah. There's that. Meeting God was probably the being homeless the first time that night and that next morning, the best day of my life. Or one of them. Savannah, Brandon, and then that day. And then my grandson was born and my granddaughter was born last year. So yeah, pretty stoked about my little family that I have, my little Ohana, as we say in Hawaii.
What have you learned from your kids?
A lot. I listen to my son a lot. I've learned being more good as being good to myself. I'll say that. Being nice to myself. It's okay to be okay to yourself, to love yourself, to like yourself. I learned that from my son. He's just got a really good outlook on life. My daughter, I didn't really learn too much from her because she always ran when it got scary, she ran. So I learned how to run. That kind of goes in a way. I don't know. She was more fulfilling being born than anything else. It was one thing I wanted for Christmas my whole life was to have somebody related to me, and she is that to me. So my son, I've learned a lot more from. I'm around him more because daughter and I don't talk as much as my son and I talk. Odd too, because she's 33 and he's 23. So you usually see the other way around. 33 daughters come back. Like, we were tight for 9.5 years. I learned a lot about love with her. You could say, I guess those 9.5 years being a mommy and a daddy. I learned about, I guess, life from her. She kept me somewhat straight. So yeah, my kids, my son, his main lesson for me is what it is, Dad. Once I accept it and have a peace in my life, and you asked earlier about coming back to New Jersey and those feelings, I think I had to come back to Jersey, to be honest with you, to make peace with all of this. In Hawaii, we have a term, or not we, the Hawaiian language is a word called pono. And everything's in harmony and balance. Once everything goes back to being in harmony and balance, life can be lived, kind of a thing. That's how I translate it. It's called pono. It's an amazing word, easy to say. And I think I had to come back here to make all my bad things pono before I can continue on with life. I think God was giving me an opportunity to do it. I think the adopted father was just a way to get here to make peace with myself. And now I have peace.
What do you want to do after? I think you had mentioned before you want to go back to Hawaii.
Yeah. I want to be around my grandchildren, of course, and everything like that. I'd like to write a book about a couple of things in my life, too. I don't know. I think I have something worthy of a couple of things. I don't necessarily always went out and told everybody my story. It took me like 20 years to talk about my military thing. I think just now I'm willing to do it, but most people don't want to hear sob stories. So I'm built as, there you go. It's all gone. All the people that caused me harm that I still had talked to last year, we're all just re-triggering it. So it's just, yeah. So I hope to maybe help somebody else or somebody else hear me that you maybe save a life. A person maybe see this and say, hey, that fucking guy can go through it. This friggin' misfit 12 different, this misfit could get through all that. Misfit Island guy can go through all this, being adopted, never wanted, beat, this, that. If I can get through it and still be alive, maybe that person will think twice about what they're going to do. I may have been a wuss to myself, doing harm to myself. But maybe that person listening is not a wuss and has a gun or something and just takes his or her own life, but they hear my story and yeah, they realize that if this bonehead can do it, they can do it too. And hopefully by saying that, they'll laugh. And yeah, I hope I could just save one life. That would make everything a really good reason to be alive. Besides being a really good example to my children. Yeah, now. Yeah.
Aside from quail, what's the best food they have in Hawaii?
Besides quail. Quail's odd in Hawaii too. The guy just happened to have it there. I had no idea he had quail. It was really weird. He was like, I had some leftover quail. And I'm like, yeah, what? We don't have quail. I never had quail before until that morning. I never saw camping equipment that sandwich like pieces of bread so you can make toast on the camping gear, whatever. I never saw it before. And my son was like, he's toasted Pop-Tarts on the campfire. Anyway, best food in Hawaii, pork, pig. Yeah, we love pig, lau. Yeah, kalua pig and cabbage. Yeah, pork is the main one. As far as meat's concerned, and fish, of course. Sushi, sashimi, poke, things like that. Fish is my favorite. Yeah. I love the fish in Hawaii. If you eat sushi, it's unbelievable. It's caught right there. So yeah, a lot of friends that were fishermen. Got a lot of free fish throughout the years when I wasn't homeless. But yeah.
I understand there's tension in Hawaii towards white people,
Oh, yeah.
the term haole.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever experienced anything what do you understand about the culture from living there?
Cool. Well, the whole story behind haole, which is a derogatory term for a white person, basically the N-word for white people. But the more derogatory, even amongst white people. Hawaiians were not every family raised with hate, like in America. There's hate as well. But white people like Captain Cook came over back in 1700s and were trying to take over the islands. And then America did it in 1893, overthrew the Kingdom of Hawaii. But based white people always made Hawaiians' life really rough. At one point, they taken away the Hawaiian language of white people. The missionaries came over and they took over Hawaii, got rid of the language, wouldn't let the people vote, took over their islands, everything like that, and then turned it into America. So they're a little pissed off still about that, and I don't blame them. And I'm really more on the sovereign side than I am on America's side when it comes to that. I didn't think it was right. The Thurstons was a big name back in the 1800s. The Dole pineapple plantation on the land of Lanai. The Dole name, the Thurston name, they were the missionaries using Gaza front to fool the Hawaiian people. So it's very controversial, but it goes back to that, to where the hatred comes from those times. And certain families to today, it's gotten a lot better, I've noticed, in the 30 years that I lived there. They have a day, I don't think they have it anymore in high school. If you're a white kid that moves into high school years, your age like 14, 15, you will be dealt with in the high school. I've known kids to be dealt with. And at the end of it, they used to have this thing called Kill Haole Day. And that all the Hawaiians and locals would get together and pick out one day at the end of the year before they get out of school. And they would just go pound out whatever token white guy they wanted, any haole or whatever like that. They wouldn't tell them, of course. But those hazing type of things now, they're called hazing. I don't think they're done as much. My first 10 years being in Hawaii, I got a lot of disrespect. I got called a lot of names. But I lived with Hawaiians, so I was really accepted. And then I got adopted by a couple of Hawaiian families. They kind of protected me, being the white boy and everything like that, the haole boy. Well, they call me, oh, haole boy, because it's how you say haole. You can say, oh, haole boy. That's an endearing kind of a thing. Or you can say, what's up, fucking haole? That means you're fighting. But haole or haole stems from the Hawaiian word haole, which means man with no breath. So they looked at Captain Cook back in the 1700s as man with no soul, kind of a thing. And that was a native type of term, haole, man with, I believe it translates to man with no breath. And or soulless, like a cold heart, black heart, however. After all those years went by, I almost threw my fist, but I haven't. I have friends that protected me. Yeah, that's Todd, for some, I've been protected ever since that night I got attacked by those 7 guys, even though they got some swings into my head. I was still protected. Like, how did I fight all 7 guys? Somebody upstairs loves me. I'm here for a reason. Now I'm just starting to figure out maybe what that is. I'm on the right road. Anyway, I think making peace, come back to New Jersey, all ties into all that. But the haole thing still exists. I say fucking haole all the time. Like that haole driving, like a shooby going down to the shore, right? our Shuby is Holly. We're like, yeah. And you can say fucking Holly, you know, fucking, I've been called crazy white boy. I've been called fucking Holly, all in fun ways. I've had a lot of fun. I've only had it said to me once in a serious derogatory way. And that was my son's mother. Drunk, told me that I was nothing but a fucking Holly. At a party and at a baby shower. Actually, when she was drunk. But her actual brother told her to shut up. Said, there's nothing wrong with Todd. You're the one that's wrong. Like, he stood up for me, her brother, when she called me fucking Holly. That was amazing. Bruce Lee, my buddy. I was like, oh, yeah, man. Good dude. But yeah, so Holly, it still exists. Maybe more in local neighborhoods. When people go in there, they'll say fucking Holly. You'll hear it. Big Island, Hawaii, not so much. You won't hear it publicly too hard. You know when someone's looking at you and they're not, and they're not white, you know they're thinking it. There's a certain look, because if you don't mind your own business, you may be talked to in Hawaii about, you know. I've seen heaven on earth in Hawaii with hikes, and you meet Hawaiians, they're the nicest friggin' people in the world. They're like Italians. If they get to know you, they're gonna feed you all the time. They're gonna invite you over. Come on in, Holly boy. And that's a sign of endearment when they say it like that. Yeah. So I've been adopted, and being adopted from birth and then adopted in Hawaii. I consider the adopted moms that I had, they're called hanai, is the word for adoption in Hawaiian. So I've been hanai'd into a few Hawaiian families throughout the years, and just wonderful, wonderful people. Strict, discipline-minded. If I screwed up, they freaking tell me. My one hanai Hawaiian mom used to be able to tell me the things I needed to hear when I didn't want to hear them. Somebody like balls enough to tell Todd that he ain't all that, because sometimes I had an ego, sometimes a surfer, I had a little ego, kind of a thing, but my ego got diminished, and I got humbled, I got modest. I mean, along with being homeless will definitely humble you. If it doesn't, I don't know what to say for you as a person, but not you. But yeah, it's definitely something I hated, because when you get in your car, and you have nowhere to go. It's probably one of the saddest things I can think of. I said to somebody one day, I don't even know where I'm driving to, bro. And that person was like, damn, that's sad, Todd. And I don't know. I'm gonna pull over. I've been asked to leave parking lots, sleeping in my car. It's been scary. I had a guy bang on my door one night. I switched beaches, so I wouldn't be in the same place too long, so I wouldn't be known and everything like that, because everyone knew me in the Side Island, so I was embarrassed. All that stuff. I had a night with a hammer one night, just bang on my window with a hammer. Gonna bust through at 2 o'clock in the morning. So then I started sleeping with a hammer on my chest, because PTSD was a big part of my life. So it's now at bay. And I have my moments. I go into a building, I'm searching for all my exits. It's a key thing for PTSD as far as military. I never wanted to admit that I was a man down. Something inside of me be tough all the time. But I had people pretend that they were generous, but always had an ulterior motive behind the generosity. So I never had any true generosity. I don't know what that feels like. All I know is that I could do for myself. If I'm physically able to walk, I will do something. The Army pays me Social Security. I don't make all that much money, but I make enough to pay my rent, pay my car, my insurance, and then I work for Uber or DoorDash or whatever I can, because I can't be a carpenter anymore because of my spine surgeries. So I just do what I got to do, however I got to do it, or wait until I get paid from the Army. But always find time to laugh, watch a lot of comedy. Now, as a result of everything, I'm big. Well, comedy is a huge, I learned through life. It's a good defense, kind of thing. Confrontation. I just don't do confrontation unless I have to. Like those people being attacked that morning or whatever, or almost attacked with those 14 idiots.
It's a way to cope that people use. Coping.
Yeah, it's the one my son jokes with me. All you ever do, listen to comedy. And he's always smiling and saying it. And like he's happy that I'm doing it like that. Because I have my favorite guys, But comedy, it's a better coping mechanism than doing coke. I'll tell you that much. And fucking cheaper. It's a ton cheaper because I just turn on YouTube and I'm good. Like I watch my Netflix, I watch my Joe Coy, I watch my George Carlin, my favorite, Richard Pryor. I mean, I give a shit if you're black, white, purple, yellow, blue, green, Jewish, Irish. During the holidays, I say Happy Kwanzaa. I would love to celebrate Hanukkah if I knew more about it. That guy David that beat me and dragged me by my face mask that day, the really bad one, he was Jewish. And I remember Hanukkah briefly. For some reason, I have a really strong vibe with Hanukkah, but know very little about Jewish religion. But I have questions for rabbis. I have questions about Jesus when it comes to rabbis. I want to know if anybody can understand this. I don't know. I mean, you may know the answer. If the Jewish people, all those years in bondage, all those years praying for a savior to come, one comes, they kill him. Why? I asked a Catholic priest this answer to this one time. He actually answered me last year down in Delaware at the VA hospital. He goes, no matter where Jesus was born, he was going to be crucified anyway. He was doing this country, that country, whatever. And it made sense. Whatever he was born into, whatever country he was born into, he would have been killed. But I think about this stuff all the time. I think about like all the old countries in Babylon, and I don't know why. I want to know everything what happened back then. And I just got a lot more questions for rabbis. Like I just don't get the Jewish people. And I know they don't enjoy all the bondage than Hitler. Because I've been to Dachau in Munich, where Germany, the concentration camp. I've seen it firsthand. And at the time, I was going out with a German girl. When we entered the crematorium of Dachau, where all the old bodies are not in their body form, it's all ashes, it's huge oven. Soon as she and her 100% German cousin, too, and me, and then the American Army guy, my buddy, the cousin's boyfriend, crying. I walked into the crematorium, smelled like death. I walked into the showers where the women and children were gassed. 22 years old, 21 years old, crying my eyes out. I remember what the tile looks like. I remember the spigots coming out of the wall and all the pictures on the wall of all the women and children packed in there, naked, getting ready to die. See, yeah, so I got questions for rabbis because I don't enjoy seeing humans going through that, Jewish or any other. And I think we're all chosen people. I think even though they're chosen. I know I'm weird, but yeah. Please don't feel sorry for me. Yeah, that's the one. I think I was telling you yesterday, the day before, I met this 24-year-old girl, born partially blind, cerebral palsy, and had 14 brain surgeries, 24 years old. Not my story, but her story. Just continues that I may be on the right path. I had a young kid.
And her attitude.
Her attitude was just amazing. Like 2 jobs, just coming from one, making sure Uber's not going to overcharge her for me waiting in the parking lot too long. Alert, told me the 3rd driveway partially. I mean, just an amazing attitude. Oh, gumption. She had gumption, if that word makes sense in this thing right here. Yeah. Well, yeah, and Prevagen. Prevagen is my most amazing thing for Todd. It has reversed my non-cognitive ability. I had a lot of TBIs when I got hit in the head that many times. My whole adult life was changed. Traumatic brain injuries is TBI, the acronym that they use now. One big concussion that night, obviously going to get 1 concussion. I'm not a medical person, but I know the doctor said I got hit in the head 10 to 12 times. Each hit to the skull if it hits brain area, whatever, it's a TBI. So maybe 6 to 8 TBIs, which will alter your life, which it did for me, as everyone's heard the stories. And then, yeah, you get, the Prevagen. I started taking it last year. It has reversed my non-cognitive abilities. So I'll say that. And it just, Uber, I help out a lot of people in Uber. I had a 19-year-old kid that was adopted too, trying to help his mother get off drugs 3 weeks ago. And he's just talking to me. I said, bro, I was adopted too, bro. Oh, yeah, I met my birth mom too. He's 19, I'm 57. He got out of the car, came over to my window. He goes, man, I really needed that. And he shook my hand. Thank you. And he went to work. Yeah, it was amazing. He had so much in common with me. Yeah, I'm getting beat by stepdads early. Yeah, it was really quite. He's like, thanks, man. I needed that. And they gave me a $10 tip. This 19-year-old kid gave me a tip for just listening to him.
Thank you, Todd. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, man.